today's session is a prequel to the session that I did a couple of months ago, which was how to become a senior IAM engineer. Okay. Now, this is not like how, but this is what are the roles and responsibilities that are expected by a manager or a director or by an organization that they would like to see in this ever evolving IAM market, right? Like, what are some of the primary skills, some of the advanced skills that an IAM engineer lack? And I've seen that myself in the last at least 5, 6 years in various organizations. So, as someone who has joined this meeting, plus the viewers who will be watching this, your um, goal after this session should be to go about and put up a plan, right? Like, a lot of people are confused about what is expected, what should be the roadmap, right? So this will definitely help you put up a roadmap around identifying your current state, what you're doing at your current state. This is your future state. Now, don't get overwhelmed or confused that okay, this there is so much that you should know as an IM engineer to begin with. This is not someone who's beginning, or this is not for someone who has that initial 2, 3, 4 years of experience. Okay. But this is, I see a lot of engineer who are an engineer or even a senior engineer at an experience of 6 plus 7, 8, 9, 10 years also. Okay. Because those guys really love engineering. So that is for everyone around that whole bucket. For anyone who's starting, this is what they should aspire. For anyone who's in the middle of their career, this is what is expected for you to ensure that you grow in your organization. You add value to your organization. That will also help you to get good roles. Okay. It'll also help you to switch your position from one org to another org. It'll also help you with the compensation, the incentives, right? The package hike within company and outside company. Because eventually you'll move from a CTC employee or a resource to a value adding employee. This is the roadmap to becoming that.
Welcome to India's first identity podcast. Why not IAM?
So, roles and responsibilities of an IAM engineer, essential skills every manager looks for and they never find. Okay. That's why the picture here. So, the first thing, design and implementation of an IAM solution. A lot of the time, what you will see is on the job description, should know the design of an IAM system, should know the configuration, should have customization experience. All of these are, again, I did some research around identifying some of the JDs that is floating around in the market in the role of an IAM engineer. And again, guys, this is irrespective of whether you're working in Okta, Ping, SailPoint, Savient, CyberArk, Beyond Trust, any domain, any tool. Okay, this is like the thought process, the how part, like what is expected from you, how you do it. Okay. So the first is system architecture design. No one is expecting an IAM engineer to design anything. Okay. They are not, because we have architects. But again, at least they can start from basics, designing a small system, maybe a small clustering system, maybe a small infra where you are able to create a user workflow. So knowing design of anything is very important. That is how you should start every conversation with. If someone is giving you an email saying, okay, here is the task, please do it. Ask what is the design? How does the user are communicating with the application? How is the service provider talking to the identity provider? How are the systems being vaulted? How are the service accounts being vaulted? What happens on the back end? Ask all these questions and then understand the design end to end. Eventually, this is what helps you in the interview. No one says that, okay, share your screen and walk me through to the app integration. No one says that. They'll say, okay, tell me about the process, why you did, how you did, what happens on the back end. So, gap here is that I have seen is on the reality side. Okay. So, as you look at the reality wise, no one is thinking in terms of, say, for example, the how part. Okay. In general, no one thinks about the how part. Okay. But the moment you go to an interview, everyone talks about how. There is something. Okay. But no one is again how, and no one talks about the how here. Okay, during the interview, everyone talks about the how only in the interview. You all would have gone through the process, but while you're working, no one asks about how it works? What is the actual thing behind that system that is running? That is why knowledge of the system, any project that you're doing, right? You should know what is the system design. That helps you in troubleshooting, that helps you in fixing, break fixes, that helps you in knowing how the things would flow. Eventually, you'll be able to either guide a team member or guide an application team or help a user. Okay. Second, implementation. Again, I know a lot of you are mainly focused on this. So I don't see this as one of the gap. Okay. Implementation, everyone is doing implementation, whether configuring identity provider to configuring the workflows to configuration of or setting up the entire IGA system to setting up a CyberArk system to setting up the entire Okta app. Everyone does that. So implementation, yes, I see a lot of people are already doing, but if you're not doing, you should also do implementation. Especially folks who are on support. One thing that you would want to do when you want to get into an engineering role is implementation of the system. You should be hands-on with the configuration of the identity providers or the service providers side also you should know. And then any workflows, creating the entire RBAC, implementing, sitting and doing things. Customization, I see a gap here also because a lot of the time people are always going with the out of the box features. Okay, this is possible, let me do it. But what if that is not possible? How do you do that? That is where customization comes into picture. How do you put up a use case that is not supported default by the feature? That is where customization comes into picture. And here SailPoint or IG system does a lot of customization. Even I see access management, but not too much. Okay. Again, on the PAM side also, I don't see too much, but there are customizations. A few organizations too. So here also try to understand. Again, the only way you'll be able to do all of this is when you know the design. If you know the design, and if someone says there is a slight design change, okay. Now, what happens when there is a design change? You customize. Because if it is, again, if it is not supported out of the box, if it is not supported out of the box, then you do customization. So try to look for opportunities where the scenario is slightly different. Okay. It is not a straightforward scenario. Always don't go with this is supported, I learn this. This is supported, I learn this. Okay. And again, folks who are very new, as I said, not everything is relevant to you, but this is your roadmap. Whenever you're in an organization, start looking for opportunities. And if you try to solve problems which are complex by customizing, by knowing the system design, by talking in that approach, that is how using all these approaches, you then become a value adding employee. You then add value to the project. You're not simply sitting and doing the job that has been asked you to do. Okay, so this is the first thing, design and implementation of an IAM solution. Identity lifecycle management, very much of an IGA focused solution, but I see it now. The future is Converged IAM. Okay, Converged IAM is a lot of the product companies now are moving towards facilitating all the three core features that an IAM would provide. For example, you will see Okta coming up with their governance, privilege management, and access management. SailPoint doing the same thing, CyberArk doing the same, more or less in the same direction. So that means that as an IAM engineer, you should not be restricted to saying, okay, I know SSO and MFA, or I just know user provisioning and deprovisioning, or RBAC, or certification, or all. You should know everything. Okay. Again, not from a system perspective, but at least if a IG team comes to you and say, okay, I did some user provisioning, it is failing. Can you check the logs and tell me this? You should not be like a gray area there, that you have no clue what a user provisioning is, what deprovisioning is. So, no knowledge of the identity lifecycle management helps you to do something which I'll come in the later stages of the presentation. Okay. And here, things like automating user creation, updates, termination. Again, people who are on the IGA side, they would be very much aware of this, and people know this. Now, here, what I'm trying to highlight is only the guys who are doing IGA, they know this, not the access guys or the privilege guys. So, again, as an IAM engineer, you should know this. Again, I'm saying No one is expecting you to do this on the system, but at least know the terminologies. Okay. Then access management. Again, this is not for the access management because you already work on authentication, authorization, policy management, reviews, certification, right? All of this. But someone who is on the IGA side, how is MFA implemented? How is SSO implemented? What are the protocols it has? SAML, OAuth, OpenID. Very core functionalities. Okay. But people are, again, restricted to few things. You should know this policy management. How, for example, if you are putting a password when you're putting the username and password in your screen, you should know what is the password policy. What would it accept? What would it deny? Who's setting up? Because you have an IJ system, you may have a directory, right? Like a ping directory, Oracle directory. You have Active Directory. Okay. Sometimes you have systems like which manages your password policies. Which system is actually deciding what password you are setting up? This is where knowledge of all of this is important. The password management. For example, if you change your password in the main console, right? The Okta ping console. Okay. In how many different places it is going and getting synced? Do you know that? You should think about that. Because tomorrow, again, IAM engineers should stop thinking as if they are the users. Because as a user, you don't have to think too much. You just put your username and password, done. But as someone who is implementing this, managing this, designing this, they should know what happens if you do a single click. For example, you click on sign on, where all things are changing. If you click on reset, if you click on login, how things are getting changed on the backend. You should be aware of this. Again, think this as a journey, not something that you know right away, but this is something that should be there in your head constantly whenever you're doing anything in your work, in any activities. Okay. Access review and certification. Why do you do this regular access reviews and certification? Who's coming and telling you, right, to do this? That is also one of the things that you should be uh, careful about. Why organizations do this? So always start with that why, and then you will find so many answers to that. For example, the why could be compliance. Okay, the why could be security. Okay, it could be anything. Check with your organization. Why do they do regular access review? Who's asking them to do this regular access reviews and certification or policy management? Why the password policy is set up in that way only, or any other policy, user lifecycle management policy? Why a user, whenever they are created, are only given 4 birthright access? Why not everything is given to them on day one? Right? So start thinking in that direction. Now, why to start thinking in that direction? First, definitely when you have questions, you will start understanding, you'll start knowing the system well. Once you know the system well, then you'll be able to guide, implement, consult well. And I see a lot of the time, people will do one change, it will break the other one. And they'll be like, okay, sorry, we didn't know. Because you don't know the design, you don't know the system. Know the policies, how the policies are designed. That is a basic thing I see that engineers lack. And this is across the board, right? Like, again, I'm saying, based on my 5-6 years of experience, working as a lead or an architect or SME, those role, right? I've seen these common mistakes they're doing. So hence, again, this is what you need to improve. If you are not doing, well, very good. But if you're doing, this is what you need to improve. The first thing you should know is policies in every system, how the policies are designed. Without that, don't even touch any system because you don't know how coupled one policy is with the other policy. Okay. 10, the most important thing. Before that, let me go a little bit back. IAM primarily, right? Identity access management is done or implemented by an organization primarily to solve compliance issues, security issue, and user experience issue. Apart from this, if you drill down further, the final outcome is these three only. Okay. Everything is tagged to these three. So compliance holds a major reason. The moment you have GDPR, HIPAA, SOX, a lot of organizations still struggling with SOX to comply with SOX. GDPR is finally settling down. Then you have HIPAA for medical healthcare companies, and there are other, right? So knowing of this compliance helps you a lot. Why it helps you? Because eventually when the audit team comes and connects with the engineers, they should be the one who should be able to guide them. Now they will not be like, okay, you want this screenshot, I'll give you that screenshot. That's it. That is where it is restricted. Why are they even taking screenshots? What would they want to review? Because if you know what they're reviewing now, and if there are gaps, the next time you do that, or if you put a policy that, for example, why do you put SSO or MFA behind every admin logins? Compliance. Why there are no backend changes allowed? Compliance. That is why. So when you know how things are done at the right way, your policies will be designed in that same correct. So eventually everything is linked. Okay. Whenever people put a policy, like an organization puts up a policy, they'll not randomly put anything and say, okay, I think this looks good. That's not how organizations do. There is some logic behind it, some compliance, some security gaps. That is why there are multiple reviews that is done in different level when you implement a new system or a new policy or a new design. Reviews are done primarily to ensure standards are met. What type of standards? Branding standards, compliance standards, security standards, all these standards. Okay. There are certain standards that organizations have to comply with. There are, for example, mm, there could be one standard where it says none of the users should be uh, having a non-MFA experience. Okay. Or none of the users should be logging in from an external IP. That is standard if the organization is setting it, right? That's how the policy will be designed. So there is no discussion there. Because that's what has come from the CISO or the CIO, right? So that is the knowledge of the compliance. Okay, this is what it helps you. So I'm talking about what is this, how it helps you. Okay, just try to understand it in that way. Security audits, again, as a part of, as I said, the first standard compliance and then security. Participate in the security audits. One of them is pen testing. Pen testing is a very common, I would not say audit, but a check that is being done also. You can call this as an audit. Now, pen testing gives you or helps you find out all vulnerabilities or weak areas in your system, which is good because if your internal team is finding it or your team that is participating with the external company, if they are finding it, it's good. The hacker should not find it. So the moment you design a system, the first thing is go do a pen testing or a security review or a security audit. Let them find flaws for you. It's okay. You may not be able to cover all the gaps. Let them tell you, okay, here are the 10 gaps, please cover them. Now what will you do with that security gaps? Then you go back and design your policy to cover those gaps. They'll say, okay, I see there are 5 accounts which are coming in from a non-trusted IP. Please block them. You design a policy to block. Okay, here there are some 10 service accounts that are coming from an external IP, but they should only come from an internal IP. And whenever they are coming from an internal IP, don't prompt them for MFA. Again, there are a lot of automated scripts that are running. So let's not do that. Go and design the policy. So your policy eventually is all driven by these security, compliance, these standards. Okay. Then incident response. Again, a lot of the time organizations go through this incident response and I see a lot of lack here, right? By a lot of the team. Half of the time, the lack is again going back to the system design. No one is understanding what is going wrong. Everyone is pulling in network team, AD team, DR team, IAM team, app team, but no one has a clue of what is happening. So that is where understanding of system design helps you in gaining of so much insight into when you get into this incident response meetings. Because okay, this is the issue. You go fix it. Check the logs, fix it. That is how you respond to security incident. Not everyone get on a meeting for 4 hours and then no one has a clue. And then again, escalation and escalation. System knowledge of the system, right? Eventually, knowledge of policies, knowledge of one more thing. I'll come back in the future slides. Is very important. That should be the core. Okay, when you are working as an IAM engineer. Now, integration and collaboration, system integration. Again, as an application IAM team, your entire estate, application estate is on IAM. So you'll be working with various IT teams, HR team, finance team, payroll team, right? Application team, your the agile team, every team, because everything is inside your is will be onboarded at one point in your IAM solution. Okay. So how those integrations are happening, how the user flow happens, where a user is created. Again, part of system design, but integration design. This is what you call as integration design. How systems are integrated, how your MFA is integrated with your SSO system, how your service provider application is integrated, how your AD is integrated with your PAM system, how your IG is talking to an application and how is it doing the access review and request. How is it going and fetching all the user roles and all? That is system integration. Design is your knowing your own setup, your own system. Say, for example, ping CyberArk, how what it does on the back end. Integration is how it is connected to different systems. Vendor management is collaborating with different product vendors, right? And one of the best way I've seen folks collaborating is just by raising a case. Apart from that, there is no collaboration with product vendors. Talk to the product vendors. Okay. Again, if there will be some like account manager or someone in every, whether you're in a consulting firm or a service industry or you're in a product company, captive firms, anywhere, right? There will be a point of contact. Talk to them about what new features are coming up, right? How we can solve this use case. Don't just raise a case and say, please help. That is one of the common trends that I've seen again from a very long time. Okay. So collaborate, understand the new features, read the vendor documentation, talk to them. Can you do POC, especially consulting folks, right? They have so many, they have partnership with already all the vendors. They can simply find a point of contact, connect with them, try to improve the customer experience, the customer that you're supporting. Come up with your own unique set of ideas. Say, okay, here is a customer problem. Can you help me solve this? You go fix it and then show it to the customer. I believe this, you have been struggling with this use case. This is how we can fix this. Can we do a POC? They're already in the system. Customers will agree to that. And that's how you generate new businesses. Okay. And it's not the responsibility of the sales team or the SDM team to generate business. You can also talk to them about this. Again, adding value. And customers love folks or members who are adding value because you're solving their pain point. Okay. Use one of this channel, also vendor management. Then cross-functional collaboration, aligning IAM initiative with broader business goals. Again, IAM is not sitting and then solving a user issue or integrating an application. How you're actually solving other problems. And this particular cross-functional collaboration goes to someone who's already above 5, 6 experience. Okay. And then they're aspired to be a senior engineer or a lead and all. So this like one of the core skill that is very much required, cross-functional. You talk to your customer team, you talk to your application team, talk to your networking team, how they are doing, how their activity is impacting you, or how you onboarding an application is impacting the broader organization. There could be an organization which is migrating from a legacy system to a modern system, right? And you onboarding an application means that they have 10 months to complete that entire onboarding. If they don't complete that entire onboarding, there will be fines levied on them. So your prompt action will help the company to save fines. That is how you align your small activity or these IAM initiatives, small or bigger, with the broader business. Business wants to complete and move out of all this legacy system because they have to pay hefty fine due to compliance. Or there is a merger that they have done. Two businesses are combining together and they have been just given 2 years to onboard entire users and systems. So your part is there, but then there are migration of network, migration of servers, migration of your applications, migration of IGA, IAM system. Hence, you should know like what bigger or broader business goal that you're trying to solve. And again, knowledge is fine, just understanding because it will also add somewhere of value in your side itself, right? Like your small set of initiative is creating so much of bigger impact. Okay. So continuous improvement, that is what I again see, not like in terms of the individual, but in terms of your existing system. How do you improve? The first is knowing the current state. How do you know your current state? By just looking at the logs, monitor, if you, for example, one example is, let me talk about three different use cases. Let's start with IGA. In the IGA world, you will see the time that the user takes to onboard into a system is 10 days. Okay. Like the entire onboarding process. You have just checked the logs and you are like, okay, this is 10 days. How can we improve this? So start identifying, knowing the current state. The current state, then design the future state. And then you improve it. That is one. If you go to the access management side of the world, okay, you will see a lot of users getting random authentication failures. You monitor and you find out, okay, in a day, there are around 1,000 times you are getting username and password failure. Is it some attacker trying, or is it genuine users? If it is genuine users, who are those genuine users? Why are they getting this? It could be, there could be a script running on the backend. So find that, fix it. Your alerts, false alerts are gone. If it is an attacker, how do you block them? You can put systems like risk-based evaluation. But the moment it is a bot attack or continuous 3-4 times, you're getting an invalid username and password, simply block them. Right? That is again how you add value. You're finding the problems, reporting, continuously monitoring IAM system for issues and threats. You have reporting, you should have reporting in place, a monthly report to show you the trends. And report gives you data. Then you take decisions, and all those decisions are data-driven decisions. You're taking decisions based on data. You're not randomly sitting and thinking, okay, let's put this system or that system. The data shows that users have been bombarded with MFA. So how do you reduce that MFA? Use a solution like maybe Ping Protect, okay, where you're evaluating and then you come to a point that, okay, there is too much of MFA. Let's reduce it if the risk is low. Okay, so that is how you use monitoring and reporting. Innovations, staying updated with IAM trends and proposing system improvements, which I said initially. You talk to vendors, you read about article. There are a lot of things: zero standing privileges, zero trust, least privileges, right? And then you have improvements around non-human identities. Okay. Then you have the new protocols like Depop, demonstrated proof of positions, right? Pixie flows, right? There are so many improvements that you can do. Security improvements. How many of you know that your system is secure here? That there is no attacker sitting inside your Ping, Okta, CyberArk, or Savian system. If you don't know, put up a proper monitoring and a reporting system or do a proper security review once. You will automatically see there are so many things that you can innovate, that you can fix. Simple. One of you just put it on the chat that you have recently conducted something and you have found that this system is secure. Just tell me, just write a yes there. Okay. So training and documentation, documenting process, I see this is so much of a gap. Documentation. They'll simply do it. But documentation, just screenshots, or they'll write it down. I did this step 1, step 2, step 3. No proper documentation. Again, people don't even know what templates are. So system integration docs. We use test cases documentation. So these are very important things. Now, what this will help you tomorrow, and when you work in the duration of 2 years, you'll do a lot of troubleshooting documents. You'll do a lot of user help articles. You will do a lot of system design documentation or upgrades or installation or configuration, right? So in all the journey, if you create documentation once, you just use the templates, right? But every time you go through the same process, no one is focused on documenting, right? So training and documentation, again, find out all the templates, right? Try to build some templates. Okay. A lot of templates is available in Google. Try to just get the highlights, right? Okay, first this is just, and start putting a section. Okay. Or look at organizations or your team where you're working, right? They will already have some templates. Start from there. And then try to design, add something from there. Okay. So this is the most important thing, training. Another thing that I don't see is people are not even investing their time, effort, money. I would say all three on training themselves. They are already working in an organization. Every time they should be, at least in 3 months, 6 months, they should spend some time and money on training themselves, on upskilling themselves. Because all of this, what I just said, it will only be possible if things, new things. Then you'll be able to upskill. Then you'll be able to say, okay, I've learned Splunk, I have learned Sentinel. Now I can help you in monitoring, right? Okay, I learned a little bit of DevOps, Terraform, right? Ansible. Let's help with the DevOps, automation and all. Unless until you learn, you'll not be able to grow from there. Right? And then you'll just learn what is there in your system. That plays a very key important role. Training yourself. This is the most important thing that I see a lot of folks lack, which is troubleshooting and support. This is the core skill of an IAM engineer or a support engineer or an IAM analyst. Issue resolution, providing support. Now, one reason why they're not able to provide support is again, no one knows about the design. Second, I don't know why people never look at logs. Logs is like the only thing that you have to go whenever there is an issue. The first thing I see people raising is raising case with vendor or telling the application team or informing, going and checking here and there. First, logs. Just go open your logs and see the entire transaction. And how do you find the logs? What do you start there? You just go ask the user, whoever is impacted. First, few things I would want to highlight is first, don't jump into the conclusion that even if a single user is raising, saying it's a P1 or a P2. Know how many users are impacted. If it is 4 5, it's not a P1. Okay, there could be a certain issue with a specific region. Okay, or certain IPs. Or maybe some application may behave some weirdly. Okay. The moment it says, okay, it is widespread, okay, then get into, again, in the first case also look for logs, in the second case also look for logs, but at least reduce the, proactively talk to the change management team or the incident management team and say, okay, please go and reduce the priority. It is a single user, we'll handle it. First thing, just go and check the logs. Okay. And then whenever you're checking the logs, now people will be like, what do we check on logs? Because sometimes you don't see anything in the logs. Then the best way is tell the user, ask the user, when was the last time it was working fine? They'll say yesterday. Find the logs of yesterday. That is your current state. After that, see the existing log. That is your, this is what has happened, right? So you compare what was the situation when it was working fine and what is the logs when it is not working fine. Half of the time you will see the answers there only. Half of the time. Sometimes, again, if it is an application layer issue, ask the application team, can you provide us a log and let's troubleshoot together. Same approach. Tell them, find the logs of the user when it was working fine. Okay. So issue resolution, logs checking is the most important thing. And there is a huge gap here. A lot of the time people do not know to resolve the issue, do not know to troubleshoot because they don't know the system. Eventually it all goes down back. And I said, I'll talk about something. This is the important thing, troubleshoot. System design, right? Troubleshooting becomes easier. User support, assisting users with access issues and authentication process. I know a lot of you guys do this very diligently. You are very good with user solving user queries and helping the user. So if someone does not know, this is also part of the IAM engineer process. Strategic planning. Sometimes you'll be invited in a meeting where you'll be asked to, again, even if you're in a meeting where you're thinking or you've been asked to think about it or you're just there in the meeting, know how your IAM is aligned with organization's long-term security strategy. If the organization decides that nowadays we are doing 5 things. First thing, mandatory MFA for everyone. Second, every app is behind single sign-on. Third, every service account is behind a vault. Then the fourth one, automated user lifecycle management. The fifth one, regular pen testing will be conducted. If these are the 5 things, right? Your IAM is covering, I think, 3 to 4 things there. Although it is a broader goal, like everyone should have MFA, but who will do the MFA? Eventually, enforcing layer is your IAM system only. That is how you know, okay. Then, because after that discussion with the executive level, then your manager will say, okay, as you have to plan for this project. And you will just be focused on the project. Then you need to tag it back that, okay, this project my manager is doing because it is aligned to the broader IAM security strategy. That is how you understand this, okay? Risk management, always think of IAM system or any system from a risk management perspective. How do you minimize the risk? How do you reduce the, what do you call, the overall attack vector? Always try to assess, okay, if you're designing a policy, there could be a risk here, there could be a risk there. How do you mitigate them? What are some of the identity risks? Some of the identity threats. A few days ago, I was talking about the different threats, right? You have the DDoS, brute force, MFA fatigue, credential stuffing, a lot of these identity threats. How do you design a system where you're minimizing these risks and threats? That will eventually help you build a policy. And if the goal of the organization is to reduce the risk, that policy is helping you achieve the organization's wider goals. Okay, so this is how everything is linked. Documentation, again, policy documentation, developing a comprehensive IAM policy. So, first, know the policy. The second stage is design the policy. As a starter, I don't expect anyone to sit and develop. If they are doing good, if they are developing, it is really awesome. But initially, 1 or 2 years, you should spend time understanding entire policy of the system that you're managing. Then when you're developing, you should develop based on security, compliance, your branding, all keeping security, all these keeping these things in mind. Okay. Then you should be good with reporting, generating reports on the IAM metrics. For example, how many MFA, how many users have been provisioned, how many users have requested access, how many are able to control or do that automated access, how many service accounts have been logged in, how many are behind, have been not been covered in the or in the vault process, how many sessions you're monitoring or you're managing, right? All these are reports. And reports are so beautiful that it gives you what you should do as an organization in the future state. What I mean by that is, for example, as I said already, if you're good in generating report, if you're good in viewing, understanding of the report, it'll tell you where your organization is going. For example, if your report says on a monthly basis, there are 10 to 15 underlying orphan accounts. No one is monitoring them. Other report says there are almost 40, 50, 100 invalid username and password logs. Okay. Again, there are just numbers. Okay. And then your user lifecycle processes are manual, or your service accounts are almost 50% of your service accounts are just lying around. No IP based control or no MFA control. You know what the future is? In the next 1 or 2 years or even 6 months, the company will be hacked. Simple. That is the future. Because there are so many open surface or attack vectors that you are already providing. So just one chance and you're gone. But if you are having a good security posture, that is what your report shows, that you're always covering. For example, for 6 months, you have only covered 40% of your users behind MFA. After 3 months, you're seeing a report where more users have registered for MFA. Then 80%, then 100%. Your organization is growing in terms of securing your security. You're improving the security posture. But if it is declining, that means there will be definite gaps that is going to be in the future. That is how you use reports, metrics for management review. And you can give insights. Start with small insights, because someone who is already a 7-year, 8-year old experienced IAM engineer, right? These are things that is expected from you. Again, value adding team member or an employee, not someone who's sitting and just doing things. Now, I think this is the last one, communication skill, which I see again a lot of folks lag, is effectively conveying complex concepts. For example, even today, if I say, can you tell me what you did in the app integration? Again, instead of just explaining me how SAML works, they'll tell me an entire different story. Okay. Or else if I say, okay, you have built this policy, can you explain me why you have built this? Done. That is why you should know complex. RBAC, how you do RBAC? No idea. Although they're working in SailPoint from almost, say, 6 years, 5 years. But how does RBAC works? They'll know, okay, I went here, created this policy. That's it. But this is one of the way. And knowing that and again conveying that. Right now, I'm not focused on you should be learning. You have learned it, but how do you talk with your stakeholders, with your team members, with the management team, with your engineers, with the application team? Okay. Second is problem solving. You should always be behind solving that, not just passing it to vendors or to your senior team members. Sit and solve. Address the IAM challenges. You'll fail, that's fine. But you'll fail once, twice, thrice. After that, you'll be able to solve it. And the moment you'll be able to solve a problem which a senior engineer used to solve, automatically you're moving in the direction of becoming a senior engineer. Okay. Teamwork. Collaborating with cross-functional teams, managing expectations of application team, the Scrum team, the other IGA team. There'll be multiple projects going on, right? So you should be juggling around different teams. Some have different requirement. Some will have a different timeline. They'll suddenly go over there. Can you please do this for me? Or hey, Abhishek, can you please help me on this one? Try to prioritize things. Okay. One thing, another thing that I think I have not written is prioritization. Try to juggle multiple things. Try to prioritize and then ensure that you're delivering everything on time. But again, prioritizing is very important thing here. So with this, I will stop sharing and I'll open up for questions. But I hope the session was helpful.